All right, welcome back to another episode of Talking with T. So, things are going to be a little bit different. Um, Talking with T isn't going to be the same as what it normally is. Now, there's going to be several changes that we're going to talk about with Talking with T, but one of them is a person that I would like to introduce to you guys as our brand new co-host, Mr. PopeyJN.
Who is this PopeyJN you speak of? Back in my day, there was no PopeyJN. I don't know who that is.
Well, there we have it, guys. Our co-host is PopeyJN. So, Popey, how do you feel?
Feel good, man. Thank you for inviting me along on this journey. It's yeah, uh, very, very exciting, very nerve-wracking. It's all the feelings. I'm feeling so excited and yet guilty at the same time.
Very nice to hear that, and I'm also very excited for the new ventures ahead. You've also had a cup of morning brown before we started.
Oh, look, you gotta start the morning right with your cup of morning brown.
Indeed, indeed. Although I'll just stick to my unbranded water.
Ah, yes, labelless water. Oh, beautiful. Nothing like a little tap juice to get you going in the morning.
Yes, indeed. Because we don't have any sponsors, so yeah,
Well, hey, not yet.
not yet. Oh God, that just shows how much talking with tea is going to change.
Yeah, we're gonna bring in sponsors. We're gonna be doing ad reads every 30 seconds, guys. And have I told you about Squarespace?
Yes, Squarespace is a multifunctional app.
Oh
uh,
God.
God, guys, we are just absolutely goofy right now. But the first changes to talking with T is usually I have someone to interview as kind of like guest, and it's all about streaming, right, Popey?
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting. Uh, it's an interesting concept for a podcast because it's there's not a lot of streamer centralized podcasts. Like you obviously have streamers that do podcasts and everything, but it's never been about discussing the kind of business side of it or talking in depth about journeys in that kind of way. But yeah,
Yeah, exactly right. Like streaming um is a business and people don't know, well, respectively it is a business, but I feel like people don't know how much of a business it is and the perspective people think when it is a business, which is something that we are going to get into. We're going to have a whole episode kind of dedicated to that. But yeah, I mean, it's mostly solely around streaming. All the other kind of like streamer podcasts you have is mostly kind of centered around the actual person themselves. What have you kind of seen in your time doing podcasts or seeing podcasts?
yeah. Look, way back in the day, I kind of started dabbling with the idea of podcasts in 2012, I think, where I used to, my quote unquote podcast was a bit more like a traditional radio show where it kind of shed light onto up and coming musical artists. Um, and then I think I did that for a couple years, maybe 3 years. And then since then, I just watched the kind of explosion of, the podcasting world, the Joe Rogans, the Kevin Smiths, like everyone now, every man and his dog has a podcast about something. And then I think it was really the last couple of years it's taken well, maybe the last 5 years. I shouldn't say the last couple of years. Probably the last 5 years, it's taken on a bit more of that traditional corporatized style, if that makes sense, where it's very much now uh, a means of a way to promote projects for Hollywood people and shill out some sponsorships. So in terms of that, I don't see a lot of blue collar kind of run from home podcasts anymore. They all seem very polished with these big production values around them now. And it's kind of turned into that traditional business model. So I think a podcast like this, I mean, again, I'm excited to do it. I think it takes me back to 2012 when I had the idea of starting my little podcast when I was doing that. So yeah, it's an exciting journey, and I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you said it yourself, like, you had a podcast back in 2012, which kind of shed a light on music, up and coming music artists, kind of independent artists, and I absolutely respect that because we both have an interest in music. I mean, you've kind of dabbled into music a little bit more than I have, like you were a music producer, right?
Yeah, I did 2 albums, and then now it's kind of every now and then I'll work on a single track with an artist that I kind of enjoy. But even for yourself, man, like even on your streams, you get into the singing and you're kind of really in depth in learning about the music process and producing and everything now. I mean, what's the journey been like for you?
For music, um, well, well, it's mostly just been inspired by kind of musicians that I've kind of listened to in my time, like Kylie Minogue, Robbie Williams. I mean, my viewers know pretty damn well that I am a Kylie Minogue fan. Like, pretty much almost every song that I sing on stream is Kylie. Like, but that's it. As far as it gets for music with me, is you're kind of like singing along to music in your room. Like when I was 5 years old, kind of listening to music on a big ass radio that I had in my room. And it wasn't anything more than that. But as for myself, I kind of want to get more involved in depth about what the kind of music industry is like. And I never really kind of like understood it in depth. As far as it goes for me, it's kind of just like documentaries about like different musicians' experiences. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. I mean, I grew up pretty much in the same area as you, where you're walking around with I still have it somewhere, like a Sony Discman from like the early 2000s. So walking around with these little CD players and then like your big kind of radios. It's very fascinating to me the way that music went, where you've kind of gone from these big systems that you needed to actually listen to something to now basically just having something in your pocket all the time that can give you any music from any period in human history. It's an insane progression.
Mm.
But like on the music production front, I mean, and the music industry on its own, it's a topic that I'm a little bit cautious with, just because not cautious in that I don't want to talk about it or anything, but it's something that I did not have the best experience in the industry.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's something people need to know, is that even if it kind of doesn't go your way or doesn't go in the way that you intend it, that something can still come out of it. But I mean, even for podcasting, man, like you were talking about, like me jumping into podcasting. How long have you been doing this one now?
Talking with T, basically since I got affiliate, like a little bit after I got affiliate, I I thought to myself when I first started streaming, I want to do a podcast. Like, I want to interview streamers. I feel like this is something that has never been done before. I want to do that, but not until I get affiliate, because it's I feel like it would be a good privilege to do for my audience. So, since it's like November now, can you believe it?
It's crazy, man. The year just keeps flying past. Every year just seems to get quicker and quicker.
Yeah, that's really sad to think about, but yeah. So it's just over 2 years doing this.
Wow. And what's the progression of it been like? I mean, if you were to look back on the first episode of Talking with T to where it is now, what would how do you reflect on that? Like, how do you see the progression from first episode to now?
A lot of progression. Doesn't matter what has happened, like behind the scenes and stuff like that, trying to get people on, but a lot of progression. Like, I've kind of at first it was a lot more kind of like organized. I've written every single question. I've dedicated about 25 to 30 questions to ask my guests when I come on. But then I kind of thought, well, I wanted to be a little bit more natural with it. So I kind of like used season 2 of Talking with T. It's not in seasons anymore. I just gave up on seasons, but um I thought for season 2 it's going to be a little bit more laid back, relaxed, and natural. That's what I wanted to achieve. The natural kind of like conversational vibes. So now I just think about topics that I want to go with, and it's personalized with the actual guest, and then I kind of go from there.
Yeah, it's the interesting way to do it because I again when I was doing the old podcast, I started in like interviewing musicians, and I did the exact same thing. So every question was written out what I was going to ask. Here's all the beats I really want to hit. But I was kind of the same thing, man. After about a year of doing it, I just wanted a bit more of that natural spontaneity rhythm to it. And I think that's kind of the beauty of this format in the podcasting world is that you can literally get away with having certain topics that you want to hit on, but not necessarily knowing where the topic's going to take you, and that invokes a much more fruitful conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I noticed after doing season 2, kind of transitioning to just like whenever the F I want to do it, I'm going to do it. Because of the things that have happened behind the scenes, trying to get people on, whatnot. But and it's kind of like got a more better reception around it. But at the same time, being only known for that person that is an interviewer talking with T is only me in the OC community. I kind of like thought to myself, you know what, I don't want to just be known for talking with T. I also want to be known as a streamer. I'm a streamer as well. Like, don't forget it. And that's why I made that tweet one time when I said, I'm not just Tiana the interviewer, I'm Tiana the streamer.
Yeah, I think it's I remember seeing that tweet and I remember kind of just going, good for you. Like, because it's a very hard thing when you're doing anything, whether it's podcasting, whether it's music, whatever your niche is, it is very, very, very easy for people to attach one label on you, and that is the label that you're kind of always going to be attached to. It's part of the reason now I like just from my own streams and everything now, like a lot of people know me for doing the voices and stuff like that. That's why now it's like I do the voices, I play video games, I do a bit of music stuff. I tried to make it as much of a variety stream and a variety channel as I could, just because those labels were getting attached. And it did, like, here's the thing, when you start attaching labels to someone, if you attach that one label, over time, they're going to come to almost resent that label, if that makes sense. And you're kind of going to start looking at what you do and be like, is that all I am?
Yeah. And that's kind of, you know, like the identity crisis that people kind of have when doing content creation and just music too. Like Katy Perry, when she released her album in 2017, Witness, she sat with a psychiatrist. I don't know if you remember that phase of her.
I remember that was when she did like was it like the 24-hour live with me thing that she did?
Exactly. Yeah. She did the whole 24-hour live with me thing, and she had this thing where it was just transparent, her so vulnerable. And she said to herself that she kind of like has an identity crisis between Katy Perry and her real name, Catherine Hudson. She said, I feel like Katy Perry is taking over me, and I don't want Katy Perry to take over me. I want to be myself. I want to differentiate from myself and from Katy Perry.
Yeah. Look, no matter who you are and what you're creating, I'm sure it's happened to you. It's definitely happened to me in the past. But when you're creating something and putting stuff out in a frequency that we kind of do, and the way that YouTube and Twitch promote you to do, you do kind of find yourself attaching so much of your self-worth into what you do.
Yeah, yeah. Self-worth, which we've had a discussion about this on our hour-long dedicated episode about self-worth, with the experience I've had in the OC community and just the experience you've had that's completely different, but with a contract attached to your name.
Yeah, look, and that's the reason. Look, I've now I'm slowly transitioning away from the internet. And I felt that was something that was going to come into play over the next few years. When it was 2018, I kind of knew that it had almost run its course. And that's why I put up the other day on the Popey Discord that kind of little snippet of my journal entry, where I kind of just explained. People will often be like, why don't you stream much anymore? Why don't you put content out at the frequency that you once did? And the answer to that is just, I did that for so long. And there was a contract in 2016 where I was contractually obligated to be uploading every single day of the year. I uploaded, I think I missed one video. So I uploaded 364 videos out of 365 days. And I got to the end of that contract when it all kind of went sideways, and decided that I had attached too much self-worth to what I was doing online, but also that I was not creatively fulfilled when I had a contract to do it every day. That's why now with streaming and everything, I will come on and stream. I will put content out there when I'm the most creatively charged.
Yeah.
And I don't, there was a lot of worry for a long time that it was going to be, your audience was going to drop off. Nobody would come back and watch them when you do put stuff up. But the reality of the situation is, I think I've got more people watching just because the effort and the editing that's going into a lot of stuff now is kind of back where it was. Oddly enough, when I first started and had the passion to do it, and when I first started, it was all about the editing. I would spend all night editing, and it's kind of gone back to that place, which is interesting. I'm kind of back to where that 13-year-old kid was, and creating from this really nice place again. And that's kind of personally what I personally want to be doing, and the direction I want to go with stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. When you've been through a lot in content creation, I mean, you've been through a lot more than what I have within the past, like, 11 years that you've been content creating now. So, yeah, it's quite interesting. And the kind of topics we're going to talk about with this podcast, as you guys can tell throughout this introductory episode, is that it's not just going to be about streaming. It's going to be about content creation as a whole, you know?
Yeah, 100%. But that's the thing. Look, if you streaming is content creation, and most of the streamers you watch now, they will stream, they will upload highlight reels to their YouTube of the best moments from streams. So they're not just dedicated streamers, they're also creating this kind of pre-recorded content as well. So it covers a lot of bases. It covers you for streaming, YouTube, music creation. But I don't know if you have a freaking arts and craft channel that does paper mache. I don't know. It will cover all the bases, because everything that you do in that space is an artistic endeavor, and you are a content creator, even if you're not sitting here doing what we're doing and putting yourself on video.
Yeah, exactly right. And, like, we are also going to talk about kind of like the actual proper side of content that a lot of people don't see. The generic sign up to this, sign up to that, or just like the overall interpretation that content creation is an easy thing to do when it's not. That is something that I'm very keen to go through with when doing my podcast with you, and also kind of like other things that we're interested about, which is music. I want to definitely get more um, get more involved with that, have conversations about that, and maybe we can have the opportunity to interview independent artists, and we can also have opportunities to interview streamers as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think as I've said to you off stream, I don't want to, for anyone that has been watching, I don't want it to feel like I'm kind of coming in taking over. This is very much Tiana's baby, and I'm just kind of here to support in the background.
Yeah, um, absolutely, and I respect that, and I really appreciate you jumping on board with this. Like, when I asked you, I was very stoked that you were very keen to come a part of this journey, and be a co-host, because, like I told you off stream, you're a friend, you know your shit, you've been around for 11 years, Popey, and Popey
You just
throughout.
made me feel old.
Sorry, guilty. And throughout our kind of like friendship, he has been a kind of like mentor figure to me, because he's given me a lot of advice.
That's the thing, man. Look, anyone that's up and coming and doing or trying to enter this space, as long as you're doing it from a very authentic place. If anyone that's a new beginning streamer, someone maybe who's established and wants to reach out, I'm always happy to make time. Because it is an interesting thing that I do like talking about. It is an interesting space to kind of operate in. But if I can give any guidance to anyone, and if anyone wants to reach out who wants some pointers, I've always got time for that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's something that's really humble, especially being around for as long as you have, because a lot of streamers out there don't really practice the idea of being humble because, as we're going to get into, business content is a business.
It is, but and look, I'm gonna be the first to say it. I've been around for a while. I've had some good success on an old YouTube channel, but after contracts and everything, I've moved over to just being a small creator again in the space. You know, it's a weird thing of, you know, I was kind of wasn't up here, but I was here, and now I'm kind of back down here, and I kind of find myself a little bit happier down here.
Yeah, surprisingly, like, that's really surprising for you to actually say that you're happy down here. Because, like, imagine, like, being as successful as either you were with almost 20K subscribers, maybe? Um,
It was it was quite a bit more than that. I think the channel, my first channel before everything kind of happened in the background, we were almost at 60K.
yeah, wow. So, yeah, like the fact that you're saying, you know what, I'm happy being down here is quite interesting because a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, maybe some people would be like, would be miserable going back down there because of how much work they put in to be up there and then going down there.
Yeah, look, there was definitely a moment where I was. I mean, to see 8 years of work kind of go down the drain was a very hard thing to process.
Mm.
And it was kind of like it was like fucking getting a divorce from a wife or something. I had this long-term relationship with this channel, and she let me down. And then yeah, it did take a while for me to kind of come to terms with it. You know, obviously the goal for every creator is to be creating for the biggest amount of people that you can possibly reach, right? That's the end goal of any creator, no matter which space you're in. But I don't know. For me, going back to the grassroots of it all, and you know, on channels now that are sitting at, you know, a couple of hundred people, you know, I have like on streams like maybe 20 people that come in consistently. And that is a lot more fulfilling to me than getting, you know, 100,000 views on something, because by the time you reach those kind of numbers, I don't know, you can't connect in the way that you can when you're a smaller creator.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I know a lot of my channels, like I know a lot of my people that watch constantly. They message me about their lives. You know, I've talked to a couple of them over the years. The ones that have stuck by me for 11 years are now getting married, having kids, and I still keep in touch with them, and I get to be a small part of that journey. So I find it more fulfilling to be a smaller creator. And again, I'm not saying that it's anything bad or wrong with wanting that success, but look, even if I don't get back to the lofty peaks of superstardom, uh, it's I don't know. It's kind of I'm okay with it now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it definitely took a lot of work to get there. Um, but yeah, you're right. I feel like small creators, they're more kind of like humble. They're more kind of like just doing it for fun. Like you see all those big creators giving back to small streamers, and seeing their reactions is priceless. And even for me, I know as a small creator, when I get raids of like 20 or 30 views, like I react quite immensely because it's not every so often that small creators do get raids. And the way Twitch is kind of like made creators kind of like grind or think, even people that have got 30 views think the same as that if they were to be successful with 100k views. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. It's, but that's the thing with all of the social media platforms nowadays, and whether that's YouTube, Twitch, fucking Facebook, whoever it is, the more eyes that you can get onto your stuff, the more you get rewarded. That's just the nature of the game, right? But for those of us that only have a couple of people on us, I find smaller creators a lot more grateful
Mm.
and a lot more respectful of their communities. It it becomes a weird thing once you've got too many eyeballs on you. I'm not saying that they're not grateful to have those big numbers or anything like that, but it kind of shifts your perspective in a weird way. And I'm not saying again, like if I was presented the opportunity of having 1 million people watching my shit consistently, yeah, look, of course, that would be awesome. I'm not going to deny that. That would be great. But the opportunity just isn't feasible at the moment. And I think once you kind of come to terms with, like, I'll give you a good example. There was a guy who I used to speak with, and he jumped over the Twitch right after I did.
Mm.
And he tried streaming for a month, wasn't getting the numbers, messaged me saying, it just isn't working. There's only like 2 people watching me, 3 people watching me. I'm done. And I was like, dude, the fact that there are people watching you in the first month, given the amount of content that's on these sites, is freaking mind blowing. Like in itself, that your personality is connected to a handful of people within the first month.
Yeah.
Like that's mind boggling, man. Like I I just don't. Yeah, I just don't understand the mentality of, if I'm not hitting a certain number that I've laid out for myself, then I'm a failure.
Yeah. That is not a good way to think about streaming, and that is kind of like a negative mindset to have. And as I've said, around a couple months ago, it kind of took a couple of people to kind of like give me like real proper advice to kind of like get me to understand that like having a negative mindset about streaming is not good, is not healthy, and having a more positive mindset about streaming is a more healthier approach. And look at how far I have come since September last year, you know?
Yeah, man. But that's the thing. Look, it's all mindset. And it's something I keep telling you. It's you're better to be happier down here than you are to be up here and be miserable.
Yeah, exactly right. But yeah, we've kind of hit the surface level of the things that we kind of want to talk about through our time co-hosting this podcast, Talking with T. We're going to dabble into all these things, all the kind of like real shit about content creating and kind of like the dark side that nobody knows kind of vibes,
The dark side of Twitch and YouTube.
Yeah. It's like the 1 hour documentaries that you see, but instead it's the podcast.
That's actually a good analogy.
Ugh. But yeah. Look, I hope you guys enjoyed this introductory episode of Talking with T, and I hope you guys are excited just as much as we both are for the new adventure ahead about Talking with T, at which it's not going to be just about a podcast with all the streamer friends. It's going to be a podcast where we talk about streaming, content, creation, and pretty much anything we want to talk about that interests us.
Yeah, 100%. And again, thanks for allowing me on this journey. I appreciate it. I'm excited. I'm a little nervous, but I'm always nervous when I do something new, which is good. It's good to feel nervous when you do something that you're kind of out of your comfort zone in, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, and I'm definitely excited as well. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and take care.